guys, welcome to the channel. On this channel we talk about the cost of living in different places outside of the United States when retiring or if you are a digital nomad. Now here goes. I have filmed a video for you to give you insight into what the city of Acapulco is really like. The cab ride cost 150 pesos, which at the time this video was created was around $7.50. I could have taken the bus for 10 pesos, but wanted to film this video for you. I wanted you to see that Acapulco is a busy, vibrant city in spite of what the U.S. travel warning pages imply. This is not to dispute the safety issues mentioned on the U.S. Gov pages. It is to explain that thousands of Canadians and a few hundred Americans, what we already know. It is a slow process to get from one end of town to the other, mostly because Acapulco is not a town, but a city with close to 1 million residents. And yes, there are certain areas that Americans dare not visit, and there are definitely certain things that you dare not do. However, overall, in recent months, well, the last couple of years, Acapulco has become more and more a pleasant and a safe place to be. The Acapulco Bay runs parallel to the main street. On one side of the street are major hotels and oceanfront condominiums with white sandy beaches. On the other side of the street are shopping malls, stores, restaurants, apartment buildings, and shops. What most people don't yet understand is 1, there is a U.S. embassy in Acapulco, and 2, even when violence was at its worst, people still traveled from Mexico City to Acapulco. The Mexican people never, ever gave up on Acapulco. What you see on your screen are colorful buses parked outside of downtown on the main street. Each week, dozens and dozens of these buses come to Acapulco from Mexico City, filled with tourists from around the world. Even when Acapulco was experiencing high levels of disharmony between rival gangs and the police department, tourists from Mexico never fully stopped coming to Acapulco. When the pandemic hit full force the first time, the beaches were closed, yet people from Mexico City drove to Acapulco and rented Airbnb homes from multi-generational families. I know, I was in one of the neighborhoods. I first arrived in Acapulco in 2019, stayed 3 months, left, and then returned. Left again for 5 months to stay in Puerto Escondido and returned again. As an American expat, I feel safe in Acapulco. I don't do the nightlife, and the strongest thing I take is coffee and Tylenol. As long as you don't have connections to the down and dirty nightlife, you are assured of reasonable safety. There are thousands of Americans and Canadians and Europeans who visit Acapulco each year during the winter months. There is also a small community of Americans and Canadians who live in Acapulco all year round. Amazingly enough, there are many retired U.S. military who have purchased real estate here in the Acapulco area for their retirement. Now, when violence broke out, they were not able to sell their property, and now the property value is increasing as the violence is decreasing. Now, if you are a baby boomer, then you may remember Acapulco from the news in the 50s, 60s, and the early 70s, when Hollywood A-list stars spent time in Acapulco. The Kennedy family vacationed in Acapulco, and JFK and Jackie honeymooned in Acapulco. Elvis Presley made a movie here and spent leisure time here, as did Nancy and Ronald Reagan and Elizabeth Taylor with the husband before Richard Burton. All the famous places where the famous, the wealthy, and the rich stayed, including Howard Hughes, are still available today. All you need is a credit card. Acapulco is a town with Hollywood history and political history. A lot of secrets in this city beginning right after World War II into the late 60s. Acapulco is 235 miles from Mexico City, located right on the Pacific Ocean coastline. Wealthy investors from Mexico City purchase villas and homes hanging off the hill, some of which are rented to everyday people. Others keep their property private for family use only. The hotels on the main street experience a low vacancy factor 12 months out of the year. One reason is the weather in Acapulco, except during the rainy season, is picture perfect, and even when it rains, it often clears up on the same day with a bright, shining sun and a beautiful sunset. What can I say? Acapulco is beautiful. The city has casinos, theme parks, shopping malls, Home Depot, KFC, Dominos Pizza, McDonald's, AT&T, Applebees, and of course several Starbucks, water sports, views to live for, and sunsets you will never forget. The city's natural landscape is what helps to make it one of the most beautiful cities on the North American continent. The bay curves around, and people living across the bay can look at the nightlife across the city to the other side of the bay. The view is never more beautiful than on New Year's Eve. Beachfront nightclubs are open air, creating a romantic ambience. Happy hour and watching the sunset is romantic too. That's how I know. I was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, Berkeley, California to be exact. During my earlier years, I traveled while working for United Airlines after living in Europe for 1 year with my ex-husband, who was in the U.S. Army. My love for travel never swayed. It was my dream to retire and travel from one place to another with no particular schedule. I was doing fine until the pandemic. I have used this time to start this YouTube channel and to share my experience with other baby boomers who also may be having trouble retiring on a low monthly income. I love my country, but there was no way I could live with a view of the city or a view of the sea in the Bay Area on Social Security. Somewhere during my corporate career, I realized I had to make a choice. Stay in corporate America and create a large retirement income with a 50% chance of being sick by the time I retired, or give up the corporate job and focus on staying healthy to fulfill my dream of traveling the world. You see, I was one of the first women to work as a technical engineer for United Airlines at the San Francisco maintenance base. I actually had to sign tags along with the senior engineer on aircraft maintenance parts for airplanes. That was way too much pressure. If anything happened to one of those planes, the FAA investigation on any mishaps was overwhelming. I worked on the DAD, that's the Digital Air Data Computer. During those days, the unit would tell the pilot, if the aircraft was flying too low. This was way too much pressure for me, even with the checks and balance systems. My father, who is no longer with us, asked me one day, what would you do if one of those planes crashed? That question haunted me. I could not handle that kind of responsibility. Any mistakes could cost people their lives. I opted out of such a stressful career. Unfortunately, I also opted out of a high monthly retirement income. Join me as I live well on less outside of the United States. Subscribe to the channel. I will be in Acapulco for another 4 or 5 months. The plan was to head back to Europe or head back to Egypt. However, the pandemic has me second guessing my next travel destination.